Утренняя зарядка.
My name is Andreas. I'm 27 years old and I live in the central part of Denmark called Lee. It's my small village.
Yes.
I live in a house with a friend in the countryside, and we grow our own foods and trying to live a simple life outside the city communities.
So it's your first experience growing up in something?
I grew up in the countryside also, but I've been living in the city in Aarhus for some years, and now I returned to the countryside again. I think it's more my kind of lifestyle. I've only done one big bike travel. When I was a kid, I did a few smaller ones with my parents.
Sorry, is it the same like bikes, your parents?
Yeah, not exactly the same, but it's in Denmark. It's a big way of the cultural way of traveling and to transport yourself and. For us, it has been from birth. Everybody was biking everywhere.
Yes, but how long time ago? I mean, this direction, people sit into the bikes and say, okay, it's good ecology and something.
I think maybe around 30 years back from now it started, because I know that my parents was not using it too much as a transportation device in their childhood, but when I was born, everybody was biking, and my parents had bikes as well.
You think why?
I think it's because the bike gives you a lot of freedom in some way. It's a good means of transportation if you're not busy, but you feel like you're still progressing and getting somewhere, and if it's 15 kilometers to something, then it will only take you half an hour to ride there. So I think it's compared to take the car and have to find a parking space and have to pay for the car and the hustle about driving in the cities. Everybody would prefer the bike.
Yes, but your government, I mean your government mind level is the same height up for make infrastructure.
Yeah, and that's on most roads, and especially in the cities, but also in the countryside, there will be a bike lane also.
Yes, it just view about bike industrial.
Yeah.
I mean German or something like this. So we can return to your travel.
My travel?
Yes.
In 2013, I went on my first solo bike trip. I was meant to go all the way on my own from Buenos Aires in Argentina and to the south tip of Argentina in Ushuaia, and then all the way up to Colombia. I flew into Buenos Aires and I got my bike here in a big box and assembled it here, and then I cycled all the way down here to Bahia Blanca, and from Bahia Blanca I found Rio Colorado and followed that all the way over to the Andes Mountains. And then I went over here to Neuquén. That was my second city stop for that whole stretch. And from Neuquén I followed this river, I cannot remember the name of it, and went all the way down here to the southern part of Argentina in Patagonia. And down here there's a border crossing that goes into Chile, and I cycled that way and up again to Chile and out to Isla Chiloé with the ferry we crossed, and then up to Puerto and all the way up to Santiago. And from Santiago I took a bus to somewhere up here, I cannot remember, Calama was the name of the town, and I cycled in here and crossed up of the Altiplano, and this was the desert streak that I was talking about, coming up over the mountains here and into Salar Uyuni, which is a big salt flat, like 80 kilometers and 120 kilometers the other way. And from here we went down to Sucre, Santa Cruz, up to Trinidad, and then down to Ruanabaque, and then cycled up back to La Paz, and then finished.
So how many countries you took?
3 countries, Argentina, Chile and Bolivia. Three countries over 8 months.
How many kilometers?
Like 9,000 kilometers, so kind of a long trip. And the first 4 months was on my own, and then my friend Søren came and joined me after he finished his job, and we cycled together for the last 3 months or 4 months. Which was nice to have company on the way. I really like both aspects, the solo traveling on the bike, but also having a friend with you, especially when you don't know the language properly. And it's nice to be able to talk to someone once in a while about stuff, not only presenting yourself and telling people where you're from and what your project is about.
And
you probably know all about that.
Say me about people, of course, it's more interesting. Which interesting people you find it?
In Argentina it's really scarce with people. There's not a lot of people living in the countryside. But all the people who I met there were all really friendly and really nice and invited you in and served you lunch if you accepted their invitation, and usually I did. And it was, even though I didn't know the language really well, it was really easy to feel comfortable in people's company. And I think that's in some way when the people of South America understands that you're not dangerous, then they will open up completely. And they will invite you home, and they will let you meet their kids and their wife and everything, you know. So you get a small view into someone else's life, which I really like about biking. In Chile it was more like older people in rural areas in the countryside that invited you in, and really simple cottages where they lived also, and we put our tent in the garden normally and maybe cooked for the host, and we're talking about life and yeah, and everything, I think, in the. But again, it was a little bit hard with the language because in the countryside they talk differently than they do in the city, and it's a lot harder to understand, and it's a lot harder to have a real conversation going.
So, did you meet travelers in your travel?
Yeah, I did, but not a lot because I avoided the big cities mostly. I met a lot of bike travelers, either on motorbike or on pedal bikes, because there's a route going from Ushuaia in the south of Argentina, and all the way up the Panamanian Highway, and all the way up to Alaska. And a lot of people are doing that route, all parts of that route. So we kind of met each other in strategic points where people knew that here you can get food and water, and because South America is sometimes you have 300 kilometers in between two places where you can buy food.
Yes.
So you have to plan
like
a little
in
bit
Russia,
more ahead. Yeah, exactly. You have to plan a little bit more ahead, but I don't think that's a problem at all. If you just know that you have to think about.
So, and did you use warm showers in South of America?
I used it twice. One time I was staying with Boris, who had a casa de ciclistas, which means house for cyclists. So he had his house open for all the cyclists that came.
Which country?
In Chile. In a small town called Coyhaique, in the central part of Argentina, or of Chile. Sorry. And then I used it for my first encounter with anyone from Argentina was on my second day of riding. I used it in Las Flores. It's a small town close to Buenos Aires. It's called The Flowers. And they invited me to stay for a few days, and they had the local cycling community came over for Saturday evening and made a big meal, and we had a cycling party because I came there. It was really nice. So eating and dancing and talking and yeah.
Really?
And that was my second day of everything.
But it's not a lot. It's not a lot of places you used.
No, usually I used my tent and slept out in the open. I had a bivvy. That's a waterproof sleeping bag that you put over your other sleeping bag, and then you can sleep under the.
And no problem with animals?
No. Not at all.
No problem. You're not scared.
There's like a mosquito net.
Yes.
But no, I think in general South America seemed to be really safe to move about in. Like I was never scared of people. We were riding 400 kilometers through the desert in between 3,800 and 4,900 meters. So you can really feel that your body gets degraded when you're up in that high altitude and you're not used to it. But we were really lucky that none of us had any altitude sickness or at all.
I think after with travel you can fly.
Sometimes I feel like it.
Yes, it's true. It's incredible.
Sometimes.
So another one question I ask all people about why you open your door, your home to the bike travelers.
I think there's two reasons. The obvious one is that I've tried it myself. I've been on the roads and I know how hospitality can lighten your travel and lighten your mood. Also, like coming into someone's home and they are welcoming you as if you knew each other for 10 years. I really like the way of coming into someone else's house and experience their life, if it's 10 hours or if it's 2 weeks. It doesn't really matter. Just coming in and seeing how different people live different lives. And I also want to give that back, of course. The second reason is that I kind of miss traveling when I'm home, and I have a little bit of a feeling of traveling, or the sense of meeting foreign people and meeting people who come from different societies, and understanding differences in between people. It's good when it's in your home, because you can relax and make people relax also. And I really put a high honor in doing so. Also because I know that the times that I've left a house where I've felt welcome, I always.
Maybe you say a little bit about your future bike plans, if you have, maybe.
I have a dream of going from Denmark to India on the bike.
Long trip.
And when I came home from my latest travel, I actually wanted to go more or less straight away to the bike trip. But I had some problems getting the visas arranged, and could not get the visa that I wanted for Iran, and couldn't get anything for Turkmenistan, and couldn't get anything for China, because I did not know the certain dates that I was going to travel. And then suddenly I found myself looking at houses, and I spent the money that I should have spent or I could have spent on a bike trip on buying this place together with Thomas. And I think that postponed the biking a little bit, because that trip would be more than a year. I think it's like 15,000 kilometers, more or less. But I still have that idea in my head, and I want to do that at some point. But it's not gonna be this year. Apart from that smaller cycling trip, I want to cycle a little bit in Denmark. Have like 4 or 5 days trips around, just because there's many nice places in my own country that I've not seen yet.
Yes, and you have a perfect country.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's good for cycling, and the distances are very short, and there's a lot of variety in one day of cycling, compared to South America, where you can go for 2 weeks in something similar. So
Okay.
I think Denmark is an interesting country to travel in, also when you are native.